seen already a few faces which are here. Maybe first a question, who did hear about DMF or Dynamic Media Facility already? Okay, good. Then my slides are still needed. Good, thank you. So I quickly decided to go first because Vincent is going more in depth about the specific topic that you will see everywhere around the show. So it works when you enable this technology. So it's a little bit small, so I'll try to give you a quick introduction why EBU, the European Broadcasting Union, and the members are interested in all of this. It's a little bit like, I'll do a very shortcut to the story. I served in operations for 5 years as the operations manager at VRT. And one of the things I noticed is when you have pure IT guys coming into a gallery, for more the news gallery, you see those eyes going like this. Because you suddenly know, oh, story. No, we're not going to tell this story. He's not ready there yet. The satellite link is not done. So this needs to go first. The IT guys, they looked at us and they said, whoa, this is maybe where they invented agile. And these are media producers. These guys are very agile. But actually, if you look down the stack, and technology might not be as agile as what those guys need to have. Remember back in the days, moving from SD to HD, that meant ripping out all the cabling and putting new cabling in and start to build from scratch. At VRT, maybe we're not the fastest, but it took 1 year for a project to rebuild one full studio, and then the other one, the other one, the other one. So this is something that you probably won't like to do anymore, right? So another thing has happened as well. Our ecosystem completely changed. We had one cable up in the air or an antenna, and off we went to the public. Good. But now, of course, all of this has changed a little bit. I think, are the slides progressing? No. I need to click somewhere, but it doesn't. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So what we do see right now, all of the broadcasters companies, they need to be online. They need to have an online presence, right? But actually, if you look at it from a schematic point of view, this means we didn't do it before. Now we need to shift money and people into this distribution part. So small broadcaster, for instance, has around 100 people shifted suddenly into online website and creating all the experience you find like a Netflix or a Mediathek in Germany, or there are so many other examples. So this is a shift of money and budget. And all these things together means how can we produce more effective? Because we need to have more products in the shops. We have more shopping windows now. We have an online presence. We have our linear channels. So we need to produce more, and how can we be more efficient? So this was actually for EBU, the driver to look into this. Sorry, if you can click again. Yeah. You may click. Yeah, I've been past this slide. So if we look back in the days, and this was when I started at the EBU, first time, there was the idea to move from SDI to IP. I thought, well, this is excellent. I thought all the work was done by changing from tapes to files. Suddenly we were in the realms of IT, but there's still one piece that we didn't fix yet, and that's our typical SDI cable. So you see a whole timeline, and I won't go into the details, but it took a while. From 2016, 2017, we had the standard, but actually if we move forward into time, need to click again, I'm afraid. Hey, it animates, wow. If we move to 2020, just after COVID, when I think most of us have done trials with software and how to be able to produce while you are not able to get into the same room or in the same studio with people. Even, I don't know if you know, but Belgium, we're cyclist mad guys. We have something like Tour de Flandre, and it needs to be there, even during COVID. So what did we do? We made sure that professional cyclists had phones at home, and we produced a virtual cyclist game of Tour de Flanders while having COVID. So we were really invested into making software work, and suddenly we realized that actually we can go much further into this, because we went to IP, but we didn't went to IT yet, because we have the same boxes as before, but with another connector at the back. So how can we be more flexible? And then we looked also a little bit at the technology. On the left-hand side, it's small for the back, but I'll just say it's out loud. On the left-hand side, you find switch technology. So you buy an Ethernet switch. Back in the days when we started discussing 2110 versus where we are right now, there's a speed up of Ethernet switches of 64 times. Our workflows didn't grow as much. As a result, those switches are getting cheaper for the workflows we need to have, or we can run more workflows. On the right-hand side, you will see a graph about CPUs, because in CPU land, you see actually a similar story. It's not that the frequency, the clock frequency of a CPU did boost up, but the amount of threads that you can run is just going crazy just in the last couple of months. So it was kind of flat, but now you see. Last year I looked at it and it was 192 threads you could run, and now it's 384. So these numbers are just going wild. This is of course still the laws more, you know, the dices are getting smaller and you can do much more things. So when these things come together, you might think, well, why are we not moving all our industry into off-the-shelf service? And then my dear friend Yevgen, who left the EBU but now works with AWS, came up with, hey, Willem, do you know pets versus cattle? I said, no, what does this mean? Well, this is how the IT industry works. And this is how we are working. Like, he had two skin cats, those cats without any fur, and he had a snake. And of course, it's when you have pets at home and there's something wrong with the pet, you go to the vet, right? You take care of them, they have a diet, you nurture them back to health. But the big IT industry and all the cloud providers, if there's a server that broke down, you rip it out, you replace it by another one, and off you go. And it's the same if you produce milk. If the cow doesn't produce enough milk, you probably bring it to an asylum, and you put a new cow in place to produce as much milk. And this is actually the flexibility and the force they have in the IT realm, and we don't have it. We do still support boxes. If I look at our support engineers, they work like this. Even with 2110, you look into your technical facility, boxes with another connector at the back. And from an operations point of view, I look at it and I see we spend engineering power up to the box. So this is the pets versus the cattle reality. So if we move into this side, even from a real broadcaster, you would save support, because there's only maybe 1 or 2 people that could support this, instead of per brand or per plate you see here a different person. So that, thank you. So that would be really great. So how does it look in real life? You would have a standard Ethernet network. You would run off-the-shelf servers on top with NICs, with GPUs, with DPUs, whatever you wish for. And we could run our applications just on top as if it was software. That's good. But there's another notion in the IT industry that they're using, and that's virtualization. But that's kind of heavy. So there's something new called Dockers, that you could just, you spin up a Docker and you kill a Docker. That's very flexible, right? So this is where we were looking at when we were discussing at the EBU. And we thought, well, this is just where we need to go. Suddenly, if you think about a media function, which could be a vision switcher or maybe an EQ, I don't know how granular you need to be, but imagine if you have a media function and you put this together as a graph. Suddenly, a graph of media functions or containers is a workflow, which is cool. And then you can script your workflow and spin up your workflow and bring it down again. So that's actually the whole idea. So we came together with a few people within the EBU. I'll skip this one because that's an obvious. That's an obvious one. So we came together with a few people at the EBU, and we thought, let's bring in the IT industry, and let's bring in the virtualization industry, and a few vendors. And we discussed this, and we came up with the idea like, oh, you have the media function, but lately, our industry has put a lot of effort in everything that, sorry to say so, doesn't create value. In the wings of a bow tie diagram, You see? So this is a media function. This changes your media. But we've discussed a lot about different metadata schemas, about different types of control. It's cool for engineering, but if you're somebody that cares about getting results and changing your media, this is actually what we should do, right? So we thought about different use cases. They're too small, but they're in a document, and you will get the document afterwards. So if you have all of this and you put them together as a graph, you have defined your workflow. You nod yes, and I think many people now start to see that this is really a way to go. Because next discussion could also be like, oh, if we apply this to a real broadcaster, this is a picture from CBC, it could look like a camera input, a video processor, a vision mixer, all of these connections in between. That's cool to have. And then maybe there's 2110 or IPMX to get all the flows into the cloud or your local cloud on-prem. And again, 2110 or SRT or WebRTC on the outside to get your flows out. Now, if we looked in practice, we see a lot of those connections up and running now, but they go outside of a compute, use 2110, and go back into the other compute. But if you use 2110, that's really cool. That's a great protocol. It's uncompressed. But each time you need to synchronize again, meaning you lose frames each time. And why would you go outside of a compute resource while your media functions are within the compute? So the next thought was, well, maybe we could just run all of these functions within memory. So I think it was last year, just before IBC, we popped out with a document called the Dynamic Media Facility Reference Architecture. And within this document, and you can download this, it's free to download and to read. Within the document, we describe actually a reference architecture, which is nothing more than a few layers. So the few layers, they will pop up on the right-hand side. There are 3 zones you should remember. There's the base layer here, and this is generic IT. As a broadcast industry, don't touch it. It's what the IT industry does. If we create servers again, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, right? There's a full industry that does this far bigger than we. So go for it. Infrastructure, networks, host platforms, and also container platforms. Don't create your own container platform again. Doesn't make sense. There's a layer on top of this, and that's what we call, well, that's more the media layer, in which we think you need to exchange media in the host or between the media functions. You need to have a media function that, of course, uses this. And then we decoupled also the application and the UI, whether it's a physical panel with buttons and knobs, or it's a touchscreen. Both can make sense. Both can make sense because for some productions, you don't need to have 15 people in a gallery, right? You're probably better off with a small UI serving a very simple production and one person controlling a UI. This is not everything, because there are 3 cross-cutting concerns that we picked up from 2110 already as well. Of course, we need to provision those media functions. We need to orchestrate them. We need to control them, monitor them. And I've never seen a virus on SDI. Security through obscurity or secure direct ingest, whatever you want to call it. But on IP, we need to take care about security. Of course, this was something that was mentioned during the 2110 efforts, but it will pop even more now. There's something that will be applicable by the end of 2027, and that's the Cyber Resilience Act, meaning that every product which comes to market needs to be without any proven flaw in it. That's a big change coming ahead of us. So that's more or less the idea. So if we can use this type of framework, that would be really beneficial to the whole industry. Then we had a big meeting in November at EBU. We thought, who could be interested? So we invited just people that we thought, oh, maybe, I think, of course, Vincent, you were there with GV. We had Riedel, we had Lao, we had Matrox, we had Google, AWS, Intel, NVIDIA, a huge bunch of people. And we just explained this. And I think within 5 minutes, we agreed that this media exchange layer was probably the thing to do first. And even better, there were 2 companies that stood up and said, oh, and we want to contribute code to this project. So that's really good. That's November last year. Last year? Yeah, last year. Need to think about the years. That's November last year. And then we said, how can we do a setup? Because, well, that sounds very European. And maybe Americans will think, oh, no, it's not invented here. So it's a small European thing. So we asked CBC, and CBC proposed to do the same meeting in Montreal. And to join together with the NABA, the North American Broadcast Association. And then we discussed even further and we said, well, we're not code developers. We've done this before and we know we're not perfect into this. So we got out and searched for help at the Linux Foundation. They know how to handle open source code. They've done this before in many, many other projects. So we linked together with these guys, and this is how we kicked off actually the project. First of all, we started with a Tiger team, a small team, just to come up with a proposal. You know, when there's no proposal on the table, you can discuss for ages. But now we thought, let's start with a Tiger team, come up with a proposal, and then just throw rocks at it. This is what happened. And this is also what you see right now. So we booted the project officially in June. In June, we said there's a requirements council, there's a technical steering committee, and there are a lot of other partners just joining in on the calls, trying to help out. This is what started in June. Then there's the holiday season, July and August, and this is September, and you see a lot of applications already on the show. So I try to keep it very high level, just saying there's a big overview. There's something called dynamic media facility with ideas of provisioning, orchestration, control, monitoring, all these different layers. But for now, what's really important to this IBC show is this media exchange layer. And we're going to do nothing if it's not specific to media. So if it's the IT industry, we will reuse whatever is out there, but I'm not stealing the thunder from Vincent.
Thank you.